Good morning. Welcome to the Community for Conscious Living weekly live broadcast. Today is Sunday, May 9th of 2021. This is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. The Community for Conscious Living is a community dedicated to personal transformation for universal harmony, healing the planet by making inspired changes in ourselves and in our daily lives to create a sustainable environment and a peaceful world. Thank you so much for being here on this Mother's Day. I hope you are having a beautiful day where you are. Today, we are going to offer our intentions and prayers for honoring our moms and the mother figures in our lives. And I'm going to share with you a Sufi teaching about moms. And I said I was going to read in the email. If you got the email, I said I was going to read from my upcoming book. And we'll see what happens there. I will read some little bits and probably mostly just speak some general themes in the book because I couldn't decide which one to read. So we'll see what happens by the time we get there, because it's always about following guidance once we get into the flow. So let's begin by coming into our prayer and healing circle. And let me just say, I did already hear from, I'm always sensitive to the fact that I know a lot of our listeners did not have really good experiences with their moms and good relationships with their moms. So I intend to be sensitive to that as we're going along. And hopefully this will help you to, hopefully this will help you with that. Let me just leave it at that. And then you'll see when we get into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and come into our prayer and healing circle. And let's come into circle sitting side by side, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, knee to knee, coming together as one in the name of the one most merciful, ever compassionate. And together let's call on our source. We call on you. We ask you to send your light. We ask you to send your love. We ask you to send your mercy. We ask you to send your compassion. And as we come together in this circle, just bring all of your senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your skin. Bring everything to be present and face toward the center of our circle. And as we come together, we call on our source for that essence of pure divine light. Let's just imagine, perceive this pure divine light streaming right into the center of our circle, filling all of our circle with this healing, cleansing, divine light. And let's just ask that everything be cleansed and purified by this divine light that's streaming into the center of our circle from our source. And let all of your senses be met. And this might be particularly important today as we connect with the moms and the mother figures in our lives. Let your senses be cleansed. Your senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your sense of taste and texture and feel, all of these, they have the pure sensory perception and the function of the organs, the sensory organs, and that information, the pure information that is sent to the brain. And there's a whole lot of perception and interpretation that is contained within the memory and the energies that are present in our sensory organs and the neurological pathways that color what we see, hear, smell, taste, feel, and how we perceive it. I took a class with a holistic eye doctor, and he says it's 10% is dependent on the physical organs and the physical systems. 90% is dependent on the perceptions of what we see. And I would probably be safe to say, I haven't heard the specific percentages, but safe to say the same is true for the hearing, the smell, the taste, the texture, the feel. So let's invite this pure divine light to meet our sensory organs and cleanse our organs of the filters that have been placed over the pure seeing, the pure hearing, the pure smelling, the pure tasting, the pure texture, the pure sense of feel. Invite this light to permeate our organs and to travel through our neurological pathways to cleanse those perceptions so that you can be present with the present moment instead of interpreting every moment through the lenses of the past. So let's invite that pure divine light to cleanse the organs and the pathways from any of that old stuff that is not serving your absolute highest light in this moment. You can call directly on your source, call directly on your angels, your healers, your helpers, your guides, all who are here to help and support you. And trust in their knowledge, in their knowing, in their wisdom to help you to cleanse and release that which is no longer needed and no longer serving your highest light. And take a deep breath, breathing in this vibration of pure divine light. And as you exhale, just blow everything out and let it go. Releasing, cleansing, purifying, coming to be present with all of your senses in the present moment, in this present day. And again, facing to the center of our circle. Now bring your heart center, that funnel of energy at the front of your chest. That is your energetic heart that very much ties into your emotional heart. And let's bring the heart center, the eye of the heart, to face directly into the center of our circle. And together again, we call on our source. In the name of the one most merciful, ever compassionate, we call on you. We ask you to send your essence of your unconditional love. This is the existence of love that exists in its pure form, regardless of any conditions that we put on love. We are the ones who put conditions on love. The conditions affect whether or not we can receive love. It affects how love is able to flow through us and through our lives, but it does not change the nature of love. So let's be present with love and breathe that vibration of pure, unconditional love. Breathe it into the center of your heart through that breathing portal. Let that funnel of energy at the front of your chest be a breathing portal, breathing that into the depths of your heart. And as you exhale, just release the tension, the constriction, any of the blocks and barriers in your heart. And as you inhale, take that vibration of pure, unconditional love in deeper and deeper into your heart center with each inhale. And as you exhale, releasing the blocks, releasing the tension, releasing the constriction, and letting your heart come to rest into this ocean of pure unconditional love and pure divine light, letting it rest into this space, letting it relax, letting it be held, letting it be loved. Let all of your heart be loved and held in unconditional love. And again, as you inhale, breathe that in even deeper and deeper into the center of your heart. And as you breathe that into the depths, let that funnel at the front of your heart, let your heart center just tip up slightly, and let that stream of that unconditional love and pure divine light, let it stream in through your heart center all the way into the core of your body. That central core that runs from the top of your head along your body, along the front of your spine, and all the way through your base. That core light energy. And let this divine light and unconditional love pour through your heart center and fill up that core with this vibration of pure divine light and unconditional love. And just feel that vibrating, resonating inside of you. You contain these vibrations, these frequencies, and all of the knowing and knowledge of it inside you, in your core. It's there. It's a part of your life force energy that gives you life and consciousness to your physical body. So let this vibration, as it comes in, let it awaken that which is resonant and inherent within your life force. And let it awaken that, and let yourself resonate. These frequencies resonate within you from the inside, meeting the outside. And just let yourself feel that resonance within you, resonating with that which is coming in from the outside. And just allow that vibration as it resonates within you. Just allow yourself to receive more and more and more of this inflow of light, as the inner light is also awakened within you and rises to meet it. Kun fayakun, as we say, be and it is. Let it be you, let you be it. Just be. Breathe it in and receive it all the way into your core. And breathe in again, drawing all of your energy into your core, which is resonating with this vibration of pure divine light and unconditional love. And as you exhale, let yourself drop down and land into your pelvic bowl, dropping into your hips, feeling your presence in your belly. And bring your belly, the hara that exists at the front of your belly space, bring that to face into the center of the circle and to be present here. And let's call on our source in the name of the one most merciful, ever compassionate. We call on you. We ask you to send your essence of your eternal compassion. This is the eternal compassion, the compassion that exists well beyond our time and space reality. The ocean of divine compassion, Ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman is the womb of creation. Compassion is the womb of creation. And compassion is also the womb of the woman, including your mom, and including you if you're a woman. So Ar-Rahman, this is the first emanation of God consciousness, through which all of creation flows into existence, including all of the divine names and divine attributes that come into existence. Everything comes through the womb of compassion, the ocean of compassion, Ar-Rahman. So let's call on this ocean of compassion to fill our circle and to completely contain and hold and support our circle, and allow yourself to come to rest into this ocean, to be in this ocean, to be present in this ocean, to rest into this ocean, and allow yourself to be held here. Allow yourself to be held and to feel. This is the nature of the womb that contains all of creation. And as everything is a reflection from the macrocosm to the microcosm, your womb and your mother's womb and every woman's womb, every female womb is of this same nature. So first, just take that in and allow yourself to be in awe of the nature of what is contained within the woman. And I can hear the hearts and the voices of some saying, my mother's womb was not a place of this eternal compassion. And I realize that it's possible and probable, actually, that the mother's ego nature might not have felt like pure compassion, even at the time that you were in the womb. You might not have been loved or wanted by all of your family members before you got here, if you will, before you were born, while you were in the womb. But this compassion extends beyond the human ego or the state of the personality at any given point in time. So if you can, just pan out, let your scope of view, your vision pan out to expand the scope of vision and see the unconditional nature of divine compassion is actually what's holding you and holding your mom and holding all of your family as you travel your paths together, as you are here to travel this path together and to learn from each other and all of the relationships that play out between you. I know that might be hard to grasp, especially if you've had a particularly difficult life with your mom or with your family. But there is an ocean of divine compassion that's holding you and all of your fellow travelers as you go on this journey together. So see if you can shift your focus from the pain points and shift your focus to this ocean of compassion and allow yourself to rest into this ocean of compassion and to receive this holding and receive this support and receive this love. Breathe, receive, and let it land. There is a Sufi teaching that says that someone was asking the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about what could they do? Like, what's the best thing that they can do that, and I'm gonna, the best that they could do to like be in service in the world and honor in the world. And the Prophet says, honor your mom And he says, okay, and then after that, what's the best? Honor your mom. Yeah, okay, and after that, honor your mom. And after that, honor your mom. And after that, honor your dad. He said, if you carry your mom on your back and circumambulate the Kaaba 7 times, that would be worth one of the pains that she endured in labor. And we often wonder, because, in the traditional religious teachings, we hear a lot about prophets being men and all about what the men did, and we hear very little about the women, relatively speaking. And I know I used to ask my teacher, what about the women? Why do we not hear about the women? And, he tried to get this message into me during the time that I studied with him. I studied with him for almost a full 20 years, and before he passed. And it wasn't until after his passing that I really, really, really got it. As we were putting together a compilation book where we were telling our stories about what we had received after his passing, right? And so I was going to write a story for this book. I did write a story for this book. And I was sitting one evening in bed, and, before I was ready to go to sleep, and I was going to, do some writing and do some meditation and see what was going to come through. And nothing was coming. I wasn't sure. I had a lot of different ideas, but nothing was really solid. And so I put the pen and paper down on my nightstand and went to sleep. And the next morning, around 4 a.m., that time that when all the veils are thinnest, that beautiful meditation time, I woke up, sat straight up in bed, grabbed the pen and the paper on my way to sit up, and it started writing itself. And it wrote over 5,000 words, and without stopping and without a break. And this story taught me about the truth of the feminine and what it really is, and about the Rahman and the nature of the womb, and about the story of Adam and Eve and how we've misinterpreted it. And it wasn't until it finished writing itself and I read it back that I really got it. And it was powerful, very powerful. And so let's start with the story of Adam and Eve. And I hope that this will help you to understand. I'm going to share a few things that I hope will help you to understand just the struggles that women have gone through, and the historical patterning and beliefs that get carried in the DNA and handed down generation to generation. They get compounded along the way. And yet, in our generation, in our current time, we're breaking through more and more and more of this old crap and coming more and more into our power. And the world, believe it or not, is becoming a safer place for us to be in our power and to know and embody who we are and what we were really created to be. So I'll start with the story of Adam and Eve, because the old story of Adam and Eve is one that has been horribly misinterpreted. The story that I grew up with, and I grew up Catholic, and what I heard was that Adam was created first. Eve was created from a rib was taken from Adam, and Eve was created from his rib, as if he sacrificed for her to come into existence. And they were told, when they got to the Garden of Eden, not to eat from that one tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat from that one tree. And when they got there, Eve, in her weakness, was tempted by Satan in the form of a serpent, and she ate the apple, and then she tempted Adam to eat the apple, and in doing so, disobeyed God, was deemed a sinner, and doomed all of humankind to a life of suffering and struggle, and doomed all women to suffer pain in childbirth. And from this, it has been derived that the feminine is weak, the weaker of the species. The feminine can't be trusted. The feminine is an evil temptress. The feminine is seductive. The feminine must be subservient to men and is not capable or worthy of making her own decisions. And this was written into many of our written laws. These beliefs or many of our written laws were founded on those beliefs. And, I have a sister who's, she's 19 years older than me. And I was talking to her about this at one time. And, she said even at the time that she got divorced with 2 young children, it was only a year before that she would not have been able to get a credit card in her name. And, it's been in our recent times that things are really changing so that we can be considered in our world as equal citizens with equal rights. So our mothers have been through a more constricted form of this than we have. But looking at the ancestral and the way the ancestral patterning works, I want to highlight a few other things as well. That are really in our recent history, because, and let me just say this about trauma. Trauma, there was a study done at Emory University, I believe it was at Emory, with our poor little rat friends. I don't like they do studies on the rats, but it is what it is. So I'm going to share this story. I don't know. Let me scrap that. I don't want to say it is what it is. I do want to share the information from this study. And I'm sorry that it had to be on rats. Okay. But this study, they took these rats, female rats and male rats, and they would put this food on one side of the cage. And as the rats, it was a food they were attracted to, a smell they were attracted to. As the rats went toward it and got almost to the food, they would induce a shock. And I'm sorry. And of course, the rats or mice, whatever they were, would react to that. And they did that until the point where the rats only had to smell the food and they would retract from it. So the trauma was enough in their bodies where they didn't need the shock anymore. But then they bred them. They bred the females and they bred the males. And they noticed that their offspring, when they introduced that smell to the offspring without needing a physical shock, they didn't have to induce the shock, the offspring would have the same reaction. As many as 13 generations down. So this is the way that generational trauma affects us. So think of this for yourselves, of course, but you're here and you're in a consciousness where you can take actions to release the effects of generational trauma, ancestral trauma. Your parents probably didn't have the knowledge and the tools that you do. So through many generations, you look at back in the 1600s, the Salem witch hunts, any woman that had a sensitivity and a connectedness to the subtle realms, which we as women do. We are made this way, to have a sensitivity to the subtle realms, to have that connectedness, that connection. And they were tortured. They were burned at the stake. Then we had in the 1700s and 1800s, hysteria. Women that were too, quote unquote, emotional or sensitive. And I mean, even I've read even just writing letters or passionate writing, sensitivity or sensual or sexual, or, you know, that's a number of things, anxiety, stress, trauma, any of that could be labeled as hysteria. And hysteria comes from the Greek word hysterikos, which means suffering in the womb. And in the late 1800s, the treatment, one form of treatment for hysteria, which was labeled on women, which was basically anything that men were uncomfortable with, was treated with hysterectomy. So talk about getting the messages. It's not safe to be a sensitive, connected being. It's not safe to express yourself and show your emotions. And then we're in the 1900s and up to the present day, we have had the exploitation of the feminine sexuality and feminine sensuality. It has been used by corporations to persuade, to sell, to make billions and billions of dollars. And yet our world, our culture has presented to us a double bind. We have that cultural double bind, right? Of the damned if you do and damned if you don't. You want to be a woman, you have to show your sexuality and your sensuality, and you have to showcase it and highlight it. If you want to be popular, if you want to be loved, if you want to fit in, this is how a woman gets attention and gets love. And yet at the same time, if you do, and you draw attention to yourself that's not wanted for yourself, well, that's your fault, and shame on you. So you should, but you shouldn't. You must, but you mustn't. It's the cultural double bind that we have all grown up in. And, you know, there's a saying that says, if you want to overtake a country, create a civil war. If you want to overcome a person, create an inner war. And this inner war has been created within each individual as well as within all our species of women. We fight each other over this stuff. And it's all very much dishonoring of the feminine. And, you know, whether we are in the double bind, hiding ourselves, protecting and preserving ourselves, or we are exploiting ourselves, and or, you know, trying to overcome it. Let me retract that, exploiting ourselves. Whether we're trying to match the cultural exploitation of the feminine in an attempt to overcome the shaming and the oppression, we are still tethered to an untruth. And it creates that inner struggle, that inner war, that inner conflict. And it keeps us from knowing who we are and what we are. So I say this because in the generations above us, I honestly believe in some ways their struggle was so much harder than ours because they didn't have the resources. that we have. They didn't have the ability to work and find their independence. And the beliefs were so much narrower then because not so many were able to break free. And I know a number of women who stayed in situations and put on their blinders, put on the denial hat, just for the sheer sake of survival, because they didn't know any other way. And I know we've all experienced some degree of that in our lives. I know I have, where we stay in situations longer than we should because we don't know any other way. Maybe we put the blinders on. Maybe we struggle and suffer. Maybe we try to make the best out of a situation that's not so great. And it's, we all experience it. The truth of the feminine, the truth of the woman. Let me go back to this because this is what is so important and what we can hold for each other now and for ourselves is that the sacredness of what is created. I'll go back to the Rahman, the first emanation of God consciousness is that ocean of eternal compassion, the ocean of divine compassion. And that is the name for the womb. And remember, in a sacred language, you're speaking the terms of the sacred language, because the sacred language is made of sound codes, and the sound codes, when spoken, create a vibration that resonates at the frequency of the energy of the thing it names. So if we look at sound codes that make up the name of Rahman, is Ra for the ray of light, the light that emanates from source, and the H, the breath of spirit, and the Ma is the fluid existence, and the Nun, is the manifestation or soul. So from the ray of light through the breath of spirit into the fluid existence for the manifestation. This is the nature of the womb. It is said, we've heard, we are created in God's image. What does this mean? God, first off, God is an all-encompassing and has no gender. So let's let go of the he or she there. From the being of the God consciousness, it is birthed through the womb, the Rahman. There are two names for compassion, Rahman and Rahim, that are very similar in sound code. Rahim. And Rahman is like that existence of compassion, where Rahim is the reflection of the compassion that is like that. As the Rahman is the container, the Rahim is the compassion that flows to the individual. And not just individual people, but individual of all elements of nature. So the name for the womb that is contained in the female of the species, of all species, is Arham, which is from the same as Ar-Rahim. The reflection of the emanation of God's consciousness, of the light. So there is the light of the God consciousness, and there is the reflection of the God consciousness. We are the reflections of the God consciousness. That life force that puts life into the body is the reflection that reflects the many facets of the one jewel into the creation. The womb is that which receives the Rahman and reflects it into the world, that brings forth the life through this sacred portal. It is the container of this eternal compassion, which receives this reflection of compassion and gives birth to it into this world. It is a bridge between the worlds. It is a sacred, holy temple through which spirit can come into the physical. And it is also a sacred, holy temple where we can come together in connection and in communion to reconnect with Source and commune with Source. Now, I went off on all of the icky things about the story of Adam and Eve, and I want to share a new perspective on that as well, or one that my teacher shared, a different interpretation that holds and honors the feminine and the masculine. In this version of the story, Adam and Eve came together. First off, they were created in subtle body as one body, and then in subtle body split into two bodies, and then came to earth, traveled the earth independently for a while, and then came together in the Garden of Eden. And as they came together in the garden, Eve appeared as the tree of knowledge, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. She appeared as the tree. She is the container. The feminine is the container. And the feminine is that state of being, the container, the encompassing, whereas the masculine is that state of doing, the one that moves out, that penetrates the world, whereas the woman is the one that contains it. And the masculine and feminine coming together in this garden as they ate from the tree of knowledge. This was the first act, a metaphor for the act of sexual intimacy, of coming together, reuniting, coming together in unity to reconnect with Source. Now, at this time, Adam and Eve were still in the bliss state and not in the perceived separation that most of us perceive ourselves as. I think all human beings do perceive ourselves as separate from the God consciousness, at least at some level, in our dense material form. And that is by design, because our human species agreed to manifest on this earth with free will. In order to exercise free will, we have to forget our connection and subsistence and oneness with the pure God consciousness, or else we would never do all of these things we're here to do and to learn. These lessons we're here to learn. And in doing, in coming together, what is significant about this story is, okay, yes, they were told not to take from the tree of knowledge, and yet they did. And so it established a communication with Source that we made a mistake, we come to you and ask for forgiveness. The forgiveness is given. That established that as a part of our earth journey, which is a very significant and important part of our earth journey, because that's how we're going to learn, through our trial and error, as we perceived ourselves as separate and of existing and subsisting in our own free will. It also established the three things that God put into the human being to take us out of the bliss state and put us into our connection with our bodies and with the earth. And that is the taking of food, eating and defecating. That's symbolic in the apple, eating and defecating. That puts us in touch with our bodies and nourishment and sustenance from the earth. The desire to make love and procreate puts us into relationship with each other and perpetuates the species. And the desire to individuate and have our own individual purpose, passion, and our own individual existence. So it established the whole setup for how we are moving on this planet Earth according to the agreement that we made that we would come here to do, to learn the lessons we're here to learn for the evolution of our souls. So it was a very important thing, and it's very honoring of the male, the female, and sexual intimacy, and in the way that we come together, and in the way that we individuate. It's I believe much more honoring than the story that I first learned. It is not of the guilt and shame version of original sin that I learned. It is of this is what God intends, of course. So let's take a minute now. I've been talking a long time. I apologize for that. I don't usually talk this long without doing a more of a meditative practice. So apologize for that. But let's go ahead, and I feel like this was important to help us to understand this is where we all come from as a long line of women. Your entire lineage that has brought you here. And I hope that this can give us some understanding and compassion for each other and help us to honor and love each other even more. So let's go ahead and let's just call into the center of our circle the lineage of women that have come before us. Our mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and on, and our mother figures as well. All of the women who are significant in your life. And let's just call on our source. And of all of the things that we've mentioned here that are part of the ancestral memory, and anything else as well, let's just call directly on source in the name of the one most merciful, ever compassionate. We call on you. And let's ask. And if you want to make a special prayer or intention from your heart directly to your source, please do this now. And you can speak the name of the people into, or just the name of the lineage into the circle. Your maternal and your paternal lineage of women. Calling them into the center of the circle. And asking for clearing of all of the ancestral, all of the traumas, all of the misbeliefs, all of the ills that were put upon women for centuries and centuries before us. And let's ask for those to be cleared and cleared and cleared and replaced with the truth. And there is I'll call in a divine name, sound codes. Al-Haq, H-A-Q-Q is the way that is spelled in the transliteration. Haq. Al just means the. Al-Haq, which means the truth. Al-Mubin, which means the clarity. Al-Haq, Al-Mubin, the clear truth. And Mubin is spelled M as in Mary, U, B as in boy, E-E-N as in Nancy. Mubin. Al-Haq, Al-Mubin, Al-Haq, Al-Mubin. We'll call on Al-Haq, Al-Mubin to clear the falsehoods from the lineage and to replace it with the clear truth. Al-Haq, Al-Mubin, replacing it with the clear truth of the feminine, the clear truth of humanity, the clear truth of the reflection of God consciousness and the emanation of God consciousness into the creation. Al-Haq Al-Mubin, 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 Al-Haq Al-Mubin. Just take a deep breath, breathing in the light of truth, exhaling, releasing, and just blowing out any of the old stuff, the ancestral memory, the patterning, any of that old stuff that remains. Just let it go, let it go, let it go. Releasing, 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 and receiving, breathing in that truth, the clear truth, and letting it take its place inside your body, inside your cellular consciousness, and take its order, make its order in your templating, aligning your being with clear truth. And if there is any other prayer, I'll offer a prayer of forgiveness, a prayer of gratitude, a prayer for healing, a prayer for love and compassion, whatever prayer your heart wants to make in honor of your mom, the mother figures in your life, and the lineage that came before you. Let's just offer that now. Offer the prayer of forgiveness. Offer the prayer of gratitude. Or maybe a ho'oponopono would be in order, which is from the Hawaiian tradition, which is the prayer that says, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for anything you've done wrong. It's just, I'm sorry for the separation. I'm sorry for all the troubles that we've all been through. And please forgive me as you please forgive all of it and release it. Let it go. Release the attachments and the hooks. I love you. This love is love is love. And thank you with gratitude. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. So take a deep breath, plant your feet on the ground, inhaling in light and love and compassion into your core, dropping into your belly, your pelvic bowl, and be kun fayakun, be and it is. Okay, and take some full breaths with that, bringing yourself into your core and into your center and into your body to be the light, the love, the compassion you wish to see in the world. And I'm going to end the recording and open for the Q&A. If you're listening to the recording, you're welcome to join us live on Sundays at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. U.S. Pacific Time. When you join us live, you can stay after the recording for the Q&A, discussion, receive support, whatever you need. To find information for joining the call, go to joyfullylivingwellness.com, joyfullylivingwellness.com. While you're there, pick up your copy of the 10 Spiritual Principles of Our Human Existence. It's a one sheet that gives you a reminder of the truth and of who and what you are and why you're here and what this life and this world is about. It comes with a 15-minute guided meditation that you can use on a daily basis as a daily practice to help you embody this light and love and compassion and reconnect with your truth and live the truth, the light, the love, and the compassion that you wish to see in the world. All right, that's joyfullylivingwellness.com. Hope to see you next week. Thank you very much.